All right, here we go. So welcome, everybody, to the resurgence and the bring back of the MLOps Masterclass. Today, it's been a while. It's been since May, since I think May was last time we did this, right, Guy? I think it was, right? It was.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And by the way, I'm always tempted to call you Guy because I have a friend named Guy, and that's his name. And so every time I say it, I'm like, But hey, let's get going. You know what? We got a lot to cover today, and today we'll be talking about our amazing product called AI Catalog. Just as a quick introduction, Guy, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, depending where you are. I'm Guy. Pleasure to be here. I lead the product at the JFrog ML. I've been doing tech for a lot of time. I actually started dealing with AI in 21. I was one of the first to really play with GPT-3 back then, even before ChatGPT. I've been working in JFrog for about a year and a half now. I joined through the Qwak acquisition. JFrog acquired Qwak, the startup I was working at before, and now it's JFrog ML. Pleasure to be here together with Bill.
And guys, I'm Bill Manning. I have been with JFrog for over 8 years now, coming into 9, which is insane when I think about it. Prior to this, I've been doing this for a long time, obviously by the whites and grays all over my face. I started off my career with the first publicly available web-based CRM. A lot of the people we built the product with went on to create things like Marketo and Salesforce and other things. Have 3 acquisitions over time. I'm a mentor of various startups. I'm a total nerd, absolutely. Cycling is my fun time. Now a big fan of this whole ATB or all-terrain bicycling, a little bit more party pace. Not racing anymore, and yes, I do like a little bit of comedy. So let's get started. So first of all, if you're not familiar with the masterclass, we've been doing this since 2024 when we announced the beginnings of our JFrog ML products. When I actually joined the team. Prior to this, I worked on other various aspects of the product, like our GitHub integration and other things like that. But if you want, you can go back into our JFrog page. If you just go to jfrog.com. /on-demand, or it's like /on-demand. If not, just go look for resources and look for on-demand webinars, and you'll find all these awesome ones that we've done over time. And today, like I said, we're going to talk about a couple of the different aspects behind this. First of all, what is AI Catalog, and especially its relationship to JFrog ML, our amazing ML product. Like I said, go look at the previous sessions. If you have any questions about that, some things have changed since then. We'll talk a little bit about the updates. We'll talk about the repository types that are involved in this, because there are various aspects of this, everything from our machine learning repository all the way up to things like our Hugging Face repository to cache and store Hugging Face models, both remote and also at the same time. You can also go ahead and upload your own versions. We're also going to talk about the different ways AI Catalog can help you and its relationship specifically to our curation product. If you're not familiar with our curation product, there are plenty of videos on it, but I will be doing an overview of it quickly of what it is and what it means and why it's important and how it relates to AI Catalog. We're going to talk about the various ways to interact with this as part of this, actually. So we're going to talk about FrogML, which is both a CLI and an SDK for this development. I'm going to show you an example of that. We call it custom models, which makes sense. The other thing is that when using this, how do you store these in Artifactory, and how do they show up in AI Catalog? Also, too, using the same aspects of using AI Catalog for, say, localized custom development, how do you deploy a model into JFrog ML using these tools? And at the same time, we'll talk about some various resources that are available besides this, like such as our wiki, and also to our YouTube page, and also to, you can just reach out to us. We are nice people. We like to talk. We're okay with this. We like to learn from our people, and we like to educate also. So let's get going. So first
Just
of all,
before that, Bill, sorry to interrupt. Feel free, everybody, to write questions on the chat. We have the chat on the right-hand side. So either me or Bill will try to answer live, or we'll direct you to different links. So feel free to use the chat all throughout the presentation.
Excellent. And that's great. Yeah, like I said, Guy and I will be here to answer any questions that you have. Please feel free to ask them whenever you get a chance. So first of all, we're going to talk today about the various aspects of how this all interrelates to the JFrog platform. So just a quick overview of what this visualization is. Of course, at the very bottom, let's start from the bottom to the top, right? So at the bottom, we have Artifactory. If you don't know what Artifactory is, you might want to find that out. It's actually our main product that we've had since 2008. It's a solution that over 2,500 global corporations actually use for their binary management, their third-party transit dependency management, build management, lifecycle management, Docker registry, now machine learning, right? So now we have repositories for various aspects of that too. On top of that, it allows global ways for teams to share and spread the way they do their software development, bringing a level of consistency. Of course, you can't be safe without our security products. Just so you're aware, one of the things I always like to say, we are not just a software company. We are also, or a security product company. We are also a security research organization. We are a CNA, so when we talk about these various aspects of what we do, you can always go over to actually our research.jfrog.com. This is where we have a lot of information about everything from, say, the latest thing with Shai Hulud, down to a lot of information. You'll find out more about our MCP ecosystem that's coming up. We're going to have some announcements around that. We'll touch upon that because we kind of included it into the product before we told anybody, so we'll show it to you anyway a little bit. On top of that, if you go to this site, we have a lot of information about things like model threats. Just to let you know, our research is based on the fact that we used our security tool to scan almost now 2.8 million Hugging Face models. We are the security provider of choice for Hugging Face. So if you go to any Hugging Face model out there, if you notice something is not safe, if you take a look at the potential threat or issue and you go to the unsafe results, you can see here that JFrog is listed. So once again, when we talk about AI Catalog, security, and all that, just know that we're also a security authority, not just a security tool provider. So saying that, once you understand that, we have a couple of aspects that we're going to discuss today. First of all, we're going to talk about curation. Curation is actually a requirement for our AI catalog. Curation is like a firewall for your organization, and I will touch upon that when we get to that point on what that means. But it's a way to ensure, people talk about shift left all the time. This is lefter than left, which is the way I always like to describe it, right? So it's a way to intercept requests, create rules and policies based on things that we'll talk about, and at the same time, a way to actually create audibility for all sort of interactions that your teams or tools are taking. We have X-ray and advanced security. These are the constant monitoring tools inside of your organization, things that are already stored in Artifactory. What's great about this is most tools are action-based. The big thing about Artifactory and X-ray, or JFrog Security, especially X-ray and advanced security, is it's a continuous security solution. It's constantly evaluating. The data is constantly being updated. So any rules and policies and actions that you take in that product, like blocking it or sending notifications based on those changes, are pretty much instantaneous as they go. And then lastly, we have runtime all the way down to deploying things into Kubernetes and being able to also tell you there, is there anything potentially malicious or nefarious in there? Once again, by the way, we are governance board members of the Cloud Native Foundation. Actually, one of the people who created Helm, his name is Remus, works at our organization. So we definitely know our stuff. And that's going to bring us into the whole idea of AI Catalog right in the middle, which is actually part of our JFrog ML solution. It's a way that we're going to discuss today to maintain, manage, and secure the things that you're using in terms of machine learning when it comes to models. And it layers into JFrog ML, which is a way for you to create MLOps pipelines and also to have lifecycle management around the ML stuff that you're doing and AI stuff that you're doing at any time. Guy, would you like to add anything else before I continue to the next phase?
Oh, let's see the next page.
All right, so that's where our main focus today is going to be curation and JFrog ML. Of course, we are going to have spatterings of all the other stuff in our platform as part of this. So when we ever talk about the challenges of being able to go ahead and maintain and manage things, we always get the same kind of response, right? One of the reasons why we're chosen, especially in terms of software development, DevOps and DevSecOps, is our ability to go in there and make sure that all the ingredients, all the things that you're making and building are safe, secure, and compliant, depending on what your needs for the organization. Every company believes they're right, and they are for themselves, right? And that's the thing. So we provide tools that fit into the way that you operate as an organization, but at the same time is how do you do it in such a way that you're not hindering the velocity of your software development, or in this case, your machine learning development, and how do you make sure that you're potentially not doing any sort of loss, right, due to some sort of vulnerability or whatnot. And when I say loss, by the way, financial is one thing. It can be replaced in return. Reputationally is much harder. So when we talk about this, we're going to talk about the big thing about curation is it's a nice, easy way for your organization to keep its velocity, to keep its ability to do what it needs to do, but at the same time for your security teams to take a little more focused approach by focusing on what matters most, by having curation do a majority of the work for you. By making these policies on open source packages. We support over 40 package types in our product. At the same time, it allows you to evaluate these libraries on various aspects. Everything from, of course, vulnerabilities and CVEs and CVS scores, the standard security aspect, a way for your teams for legal governance and compliance to go ahead based on things such as licensing, allowed lists and deny lists and all those various aspects. And then my favorite, and this actually harkens back to the Shai-Hulud attack recently, it's called operational risk. What that means is how old, outdated, how many people have contributed to this, has it been abandoned, when was the last time it was updated, or like in Shai-Hulud, please don't allow me, based on maturity level, to use the latest one just in case. So during the Shai-Hulud attack, if you had your rules set up in curation to say, don't give me the latest one, which was the potential wormy issue that came about, it would give you the -1 version, and you would be probably safe. So a lot of our organization was people that used our tools were a lot safer. Now, how do we know this, right? And that's part of it, right? When we look at the success that we've seen over time for organizations, it's amazing how much we actually see in terms of organizations coming back to us and saying, you know what, we're actually moving faster because we're detecting sooner. We're providing that information to the developer through things like MCP and to things like Copilot or Cursor. We give the ability through plugins and our CLI for developers to find out that information first. And with curation, it allows it to preemptively stop it before it even gets in the hands of the developer. So it provides like out-of-the-box security. We have also too some templates that you can use for creating these rules. It supports all various package types. You can create waivers. So if something does get blocked, and I'll show you that, your team can go ahead and actually create a waiver on that request to have it fixed. It provides full audibility on what was allowed, what wasn't allowed. You can actually block or you can allow it and just get some ideas. On top of that, you can notify who needs notified. You can leverage our CLI and the output from that. You can do curation at the desktop level as part of your GitHub Actions build, things like that. This is all available for you. And if you use our MCP, you can actually use it as part of, I hate the word, I really don't like it. I'm not a big fan of the term vibe coding. But the idea of, using these tools now to go ahead and make your development that much better, but at the same time, you can actually ask and request for things like libraries or things that you want to do, and it will fulfill those requests based on your curation policies or your X-ray policies, which is awesome. But the power behind the entire thing is awesome. Because one of the things is that when we look at this, we're trying to stop a bunch of things, right? Shift left than left. We're trying to minimize the risk. We're trying to ensure streamlined package evaluation and management. Lower the overhead of how much time. I worked with a customer recently, and they said, do you have a way to stop the 2-week process of us having to go in and evaluate every single dependency that our developers want, because we have this long, drawn-up process that was built years ago? We showed them curation, It gave them the same level of control that they were doing manually, but at the same time, now they actually had insight into every move that the tools or the developer is using. And at the same time, it actually streamlined it by adding in things like waivers, where if something was blocked, that developer could go in and ask. And the thing is that one of the biggest problems we also are solving for customers is the research aspect. Because yes, rules and policies are great, but when you have a waiver and you want to see, should I allow this based on the need of the actual usage, going ahead and find that information can be tough. So we introduced a product, and what we did is we actually based all of our security on something called Catalog. Now, Catalog is exactly what it is. And just to kind of show you quickly, Catalog is awesome because Catalog is actually literally a catalog of millions and millions of libraries, whether it's the 2.8 million Hugging Face models. This was actually 2.7 yesterday. We're up to 2.8 now. Today, 5.2 million NPM packages, 737,000 plus Python. And by the way, also multiple versions, not just singular versions. But what's great is that this gives you the ability to go in. I showed you this example here inside of Hugging Face of a pickle scan Gordon Ramsay 2, my favorite funny model, but I can go in here too, and you can see that what's great is that we actually tell you this package, this model has a malicious package. This one is also being blocked by curation rules. You can add labels to it. We even break down the summary on why this is an issue and any of the references to it. So what's great is that with this gives you the ability and your teams the ability to either look inside of our UI here in the catalog, or they can even use the MCP inside of Copilot to ask those same questions. And the best part is that it also, and actually I will bring up in this case a different instance just quickly just to show you, because I do have a ton of information in here, is the fact that with these policies, and there's a reason why I'm explaining this, because it influences our product called AI Catalog. But with these policies, with this information, it gives you the ability to go in and look at any package at any time and see all the information about it. In this case, this was a blocked package, the requester, who requested it, and what potential rules and policies they violated. On top of that, you can do things like dry run. With the dry run just means you're not going to block it, but it's a high-risk event, and you want to find out who's executing that risk. And at the same time, any of your developers can go in at any time. And also, too, I'll go in for the past, say, 30 days, because I really haven't done much. If I go in here, any of your developers can go in and create a waiver to request something. You can do the research with Catalog, find out if it's going to what policies and violations it's going to break, and then approve and reject it based on your own. So what's great about this is that this is your frontline defense. This allows you to go in and see the activity, the security, and all that. And why am I talking about this? Well, because this information, the open source packages, the curation rules, and all that are directly correlated to our product called AI Catalog. And AI Catalog acts as your frontline defense for a bunch of different reasons. Guy, would you like to add anything in before I dive in?
No, let's go in and then I'll add my comments.
Excellent. So one of the things is that, we always say at JFrog that every company is a software company. One of the things that we've noticed now specifically is every company is an ML company, right? Let's just face it. The amount of information that's been garnered and gathered by organizations over the years has been stored in massive data lakes. Now they're trying to figure out how to use it. Some are using it for, various aspects, from agentic stuff that's doing automated processing or, say, customer service, down to FAQs, you name it, right? This is all becoming part of it. And it's not going anywhere, right? And how do you work with it? And that's the big thing is that a lot of companies are coming to us because they use us for their software development. And let's face it, when you're doing your software development, you've already put a lot of, say, rules, policies, procedures in place to do this. How can you leverage that to do your ML development? And that's where we as JFrog have been trying to bridge the gap between DevSecOps and MLOps. And how do you do it in such a way that you're not hindering the ability for your companies to actually keep pace with everything that's going on, doing it with in a way that has controls and leverages security aspects that you've already implemented or plan on implementing? And how do you do it in such a way that provides governance over the things that you're using and utilizing? And so that's where it comes into play. And the aspects we're going to cover and the aspects that the AI catalog covers is how do you discover models? How do you actually govern models? And how do you connect to models? And I'm going to show you all this in a demonstration in a few minutes. So first of all, model discovery. So one of the things is we have our catalog. And one of the things we're going to cover as part of this is not just the catalog that covers, say, Hugging Face, but we're also going to cover some of the other information that we're gathering for models such as external API models like, OpenAI or Gemini, or things from Anthropic, or if you can use something like AWS Bedrock, or say Azure Foundry or Azure OpenAI, right? All these API version tools where something is hosted, you use it more like an API and you utilize it. Or open source ones like Hugging Face. Like I said, 2.8 million models in Hugging Face. There's a lot to choose from. How do you know out of that 2.8 million which ones are safe, secure, and compliant? Or when you develop your own models, one of the things we'll talk about today is building out, say, custom models and custom modeling that you can utilize as part of that. How do you store that inside of Artifactory? How does it show up in Catalog? And how can you deploy it easily? And we'll show that. And at the same time, what's great is that with this allows you to leverage those curation policies also and find out, can I use this based on the rules that I've set? So you can look at any model and say, you know what, I want to use this model. If you have your curation policies in place, it says, it can tell you, is this blocked and why is it blocked? Maybe it's a license issue. Maybe it's a potential malicious issue. Maybe it's a maturity problem. And these are all things that you can find out when you're discovering. Anything you want to add, Guy?
I just want to remind everybody, if you could just go build to the previous slide. Just 1 sec, sorry. Yeah, and even one before. I think it was one before. Yeah, I want to one thing I remembered. Nowadays, AI has a lot of meaning. When we say I'm using AI in my product, it has a lot of meaning. It has the ability to use maybe external systems, different models, my models, open source models. There's a lot of ways to use AI, but we all know for sure that we want to leverage this. And what's Bill been saying is that there's so many types of models. Remember that we have the open AI models, we have the Hugging Face models, we have the custom models. And what we like to do is really have a kind of a seamless experience. When you want to develop a new product, when you have a new developer in your organization and they want to build the next AI application, they don't want to go through that 1 month process of figuring out which models is available. They want a seamless process to figure out what's available or to ask for something new. Because we're starting to look at AI, or we see our customers doing this, kind of looking at AI like binaries. It's kind of like, hey, I have this open source package I want to use. Hey, I have this model I want to integrate. Can I do this? And I don't want to kind of tell too much, but we're going to be doing this also for MCPs in the future, and for also maybe even agents, because AI is becoming broader and broader, and it's now going to models. And just remember that whenever you want to develop something, you'll have multiple ways to interact with that. And we want to take all the values that we have in JFrog as a secure, trusted platform and just bring it to AI. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent, but yeah.
No, it's a fantastic one, right? I mean, the thing is that it's also complex, right? This is a complex issue because here's the thing, is that also too, how do you actually go ahead and govern the usage of this? In most cases, we talk to customers and they say to us, they're like, well, right now, we really don't have a policy. This is new. We've been told by management, you need to implement some sort of machine learning behind this, or we have a marketing objective that we need to be able to present more materials and get better growth based on sales expectations, blah, 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 blah. You can go all day long on the reasoning, but how do you ensure that the people who should be developing are developing, have the guidelines and the guardrails in place to do that development, and also maintain, monitor, and manage it? So that's where the governance aspect comes in. Control who has access. manage the access control and track usage for even things like external API models, right? Like OpenAI. And share model tracking with evidence and things like that, which is great. If you ever get a chance, take a look at Evidence and AppTrust, which is another product we offer, but also Evidence itself. This is another way that we as an organization are helping in terms of compliance and compliance aspects around any binary development, not just models. And remember, when we talk about binaries, models are binaries, right? Anything involved in software development is basically binaries. So this all comes under that. And then the last aspect of this is how do you connect to it and do it in such a way that it's easy to use. This is one of my favorite things, right? So with JFrog ML, you have the ability to go in, and I'll talk about it. Like one of my favorite scenarios around testing this stuff is the ability to do like a canary test where you have two models, or you have a model, you want to deploy it in the CPU, you have one you want to deploy in a GPU, maybe for cost savings, and go, hey, look, you know what? This model is actually performing just as well on the CPU as it is GPU. Let's save 15% a month just by using CPU instead of GPU based. Simple decisions, right? That can have large-scale financial impact. And we'll talk about that. And the thing is that what AI Catalog does, it brings that together. The ability to use open source, external APIs, custom models, provide governance, security controls, who's using it, why are they using it. So it's just not, like I said, it's not just data scientists. It can be your DevOps team who is putting together maybe processes with your team to create an MLOps infrastructure. Also, too, it's a way for you to also use other tools. One of the things I always say is that our tool set can be complementary. It's just like what we did with our standard software development side, where you can use any CI you want or things like that. When you're using this, you can use our JFrog ML if you want. Use JFrog ML in conjunction with things such as SageMaker or MLflow or things like that. It's really a nice way to interject. When we talk about custom models, you'll see what I mean. But it's a nice way. I would say we're the nice base foundation and QA, monitoring tools for all software development. Now you can figure the same thing for ML development and AI and agentic development and all that stuff. So when we talk about this, when I show you the demonstration in about three or 4 minutes, when we're going to go through, I'm going to show you an open external API. I'm going to show you an open source version, and I'm going to show you a custom model, all that fun stuff as part of this live. Nothing like a little live demonstrations. We had the demo gods look kindly on us. I did sacrifice a chicken beforehand. No, it's just in case. Anyway, but the aspect is this. As a user using an AI application, you can use our JFrog ML if you wanted to host it. But underneath this, it's actually leveraging a bunch of different things. So first of all, we have our AI catalog for open source, custom, and external. For external providers, like this one over here, like when we have the idea of external APIs, I'm going to show you how you can configure this, assign it to a team using a thing that we have called projects. I'll explain projects as part of this discussion. I think is a super important underutilized feature in our platform, just so you know. But we'll talk about like OpenAI and Gemini and others and the roadmap. I'll have Guy talk about the roadmap, about when we're going to be deploying some of these other providers. And in this case, what's great is that this acts as an AI gateway, like an AI proxy from your requester, whether it's your user or an application, through Artifactory and our AI catalog to the externalized source, providing you with data and insight. When we talk about custom models, we'll talk about our machine learning repository, which can be used to store versions. It not only stores the code, it also stores all the configuration data, also shows a list of dependencies, because remember, models are not just models, they're also Python packages, Docker containers, Helm charts. These services, they all have lots of various aspects. And these are all things that can be maintained and managed and controlled inside of JFrog Artifactory, right? Hugging Face and Docker for, say, open source. Then we'll talk about the fact that we have open source dependent models. I already mentioned our relationship with Hugging Face. And in this case, I'm going to show you an implementation of that on how you can use it as a service inside of your infrastructure like you would use an external API model, but using things like transformers and things like that to access it. And then at the final end of this, I'm going to show some security aspects behind this. So for today's demo, we will be talking about, I already showed a little bit around curation. I showed you actually the first part of it is how do you search and how can you utilize that and leverage that as part of the usage. I'm going to show you first external API models. Then from there, I'm going to show you open source. I'm going to show you an example of a Hugging Face one. We call it a package because it just kind of goes along with our standard vernacular when we discuss how software development is done. And then lastly, we'll talk about custom models. And with the other idea behind this, we'll also talk about some permissions and things like that. Guy, was there anything you would like to interject before I start going in and discussing the fun aspects behind all of this?
So before you see the demo, I just want to remind you, everyone, that imagine you need to control everyone in your organization. Whatever Bill is showing is something meant to control an organization. It's not just as like a team. It could be a team, but it could be also a bunch of teams. It could be a whole organization. It could allow you to have guardrails and tools on deciding which models are available all across the organization in one central place. So just have this in mind of the kind of organization we're trying to create.
Excellent. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look. So as I mentioned, first of all, here's our catalog. And I was showing you this before, your ability to go in at any time, look at any model possible, and utilize it the way you want. It tells you if it's been blocked or whatnot. So what we're going to do is, here is AI ML, and we click on models. And when we click on models, you're presented with our lovely AI catalog. So first of all, let's talk about the tabs. We have registry. Now, registry is your own model registry as an organization. This is yours. This is everything from your external, external API versions, your package versions, right? Your open source, and your custom that's already been allowed in your organization. What we have here is discovery. Now, with discovery, what you have is at the top, you have a trending models area. And by the way, today we'll also talk about something tomorrow. Well, coming up very soon is our European Swamp Up, and we'll be debuting something at the end of this. Guy and I will tease a little something that we're bringing to the table, which I think is super awesome, and that's why I'm excited to talk about it in a bit. But it's organized first of all, trending models. Here's external models, right? Those external APIs. Here's your package models, and here's your custom. As I stated, we are going to start off with external models. Now, before I talk about external models, I need to actually talk about configuration to have this. So we support external API models right now. Currently, right now, we support Gemini and we support OpenAI. And to add these, what you would do is you go into administration, you go into I got to move this thing out of the way. Hold on. I got this little bar blocking my way to do anything. There we go. Hide. That's what I'm going to do. Perfect. I go in here. We have connections. Now, connections is a way for you to utilize your external accounts with these entities. Put in a key. And now it could be a key for the organization. It could be a key for an individual group. Doesn't matter. Whatever your API key is that you use to access these services, they're available. Now, one of the other things you'll notice here is that when we show what's available, you'll notice there's projects. Now, if you're not familiar with projects, I'm going to take about 30 seconds to explain to you what a project is, because I think it's pretty essential. What a project is a way for you as an organization to go ahead and organize your groups by groups. So basically, you have a project called, like this one called research. Now, it has a key. Now, the reason why the key is here, just so you're aware, is that everything associated to this project will have a prefix of this key, meaning that you can do searches and queries and things like that to find out all aspects about this project. And when I say that, that means everything from setting up a storage quota, by defining privileges on who can do what actions inside of that. Like, can they manage their own resources, like repositories and things like that, models? Can they manage their own members, right? So you can assign project admins as opposed to system admins. You can also go ahead and figure out, do you want to have a global security policy or a localized policy specifically for this group? When you add in members, you can add in members and groups. You can define also too, just so you're aware. In this case, you can also assign things like you can use global permission models or specific permission models for this project. They can control or use their own repositories. They can also go ahead and set up their own build environments. You can also have their own specific cleanup policies. And also too, if you're distributing the software, their own distribution policies. And the other side of this too that I love is that when you work in a project, everything about this project is just for this project. So it allows for a little bit more granular explanation. If you're a small organization, it can impact you. But if you're an extremely large organization, it helps go through the madness of being able to manage everything. And the other part is if you have teams that are dependent teams, where one team maybe builds a model for something or builds software tools for another team, what's great is that you also have the ability to either federate, meaning share it along globally, or you can even share read-only versions of specific things that you're producing with other teams. This is a way to expedite team sharing or binary sharing between teams. There's lots of things on this. But once you've defined an organization, then when we go into here and we look at the connections, when you set something up, you can assign a connection to a project. And when we talk about connections, this is where I'm going to have Guy jump in a minute, is you can go in, first of all, and if you look here, you can assign a connection to a project. And this is where the fun stuff happens. So right now, like I said, we have OpenAI and Gemini. And these are the ones we have soon, right? AWS Bedrock, Anthropic, Azure Foundry, Azure OpenAI, Google Vertex, right? These will be coming soon. And Guy, do you have any insight on these right now that I can share or we can talk about that's coming?
So we're going to be adding Anthropic soon. We're going to be adding Azure OpenAI soon, and any others, if any in the crowd has any specific requests, we'll be adding them. But these are the main ones that we see. But just to emphasize on what Bill said on projects, we use projects in a way to define permissions. Let's say you have 35 teams in your organization, and there's a new model by OpenAI, let's say GPT-6 one day comes out, and you want only a specific team to be able to access this model, or maybe there's a different model in Hugging Face, a new DeepSeek version, and you want only the research team to use that. We're using projects to really separate these permissions, whether it's connections to external systems or whether it's policies in the open source world.
Excellent. And to show that, what we're just going to show is here. So first of all, when we look at this, you can see in these externalized models, I can go into any of these models. I can click on a model. It gives me some basic information about the model, and we'll be expanding this information over time as we go. But as we go here, you see the model details. Now, to utilize this model, all I have to simply do is hit connect. I select my project. It automatically will select a connection. If that connection is not available, it will ask you to go ahead and establish it. And then I can go ahead and allow this model to the project. Now I'm going to go back to all projects just for a minute, just so you can see. And I'm going to show a specific one in this case, because this is one that I've actually gone ahead. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go ahead and just show you. Let me look around. Here it is here. So currently right now, I am actually using OpenAI ChatGPT 4.1 Nano. It's been allowed in my research organization. And I'll just show you quickly that if you look here, I have been utilizing this model, but how do I utilize it? How do I make it easy? So one of the greatest things, and I love this, is the fact that all I need to do once I've allowed it is to go ahead and say use model. I go in here, I generate a token for my user. Hold on, I got to authenticate with my watch. Boop, boop. There we go. I just verbally said boop, boop. Well, I did that. That's really funny. I'm going to copy my key that I have for the sword. I go in, and if you look, it's actually applied the actual key to this little snippet of code. We are using the OpenAI client in this case, and the only thing we're doing is we're redirecting it to this instance. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this actually here. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my IDE, which is right here. I'm going to bring that up. Here we go. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead. I can go ahead and paste this in. So I'm going to go paste that in. There we go. If you look here, it's going to ask to explain, OpenAI in one sentence. I do need to use. We're using our Frog ML CLI, so I'll just show you that quickly.
But just not forget one word on that, Bill. What Bill is showing is exactly the OpenAI client. Like, we don't demand you to change anything beyond the base URL and the API key, but we're using the same APIs or the same kind of stack that most companies are already using. So we're not reinventing an interface. We're just providing you a way to govern OpenAI traffic through the JFrog platform with the same SDK.
That's correct. So let's go ahead and let's paste this. Hold on. Let me go to the end here. This is actually going to go ahead. I'm going to log in quickly just so you can see. I accidentally turned off my sharing. There we go. I've now logged in to my instance. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and say Python, like I type today, test my OpenAI, the code above. I'm going to hit enter. And what this is going to do is this is going to go ahead and send the request, which is it just did. Gave me my quick little explanation back. And then when I go back into my instance, which I have over here, I'll just show you that I can go ahead, oops, there. And if we go back and we go in, there we go. And it will register in a few moments that I had some usage, which is great. You're going to actually, it takes about a minute or so for it to go, but it will update this and let me know. This gives me an idea of who and how they're actually utilizing this. Anything you want to add, guys? I'm just going to, before I move on.
So one of the reasons for doing that is that, Bill, if you could go back to the previous models page, all the externals, let's just show all the external models and discovery. Yeah, or here. Yeah, or discovery, just all externals. Perfect. If you see, there's so many types of models. There's GPT-5 and GPT-5 Nano. Some of them are more expensive. Some of them are less expensive. Some of them are compliant. Some of them are not. We want to give you a very simple way to define which specific models are available and also to which users. Now, we'll be adding many features on top of that to add this to applications, to development lifecycle, to Uptrust. But currently, that's a way for you to verify this. I don't think we have time for this in this demo, but if Bill will kind of block this model, the code snippet that he just showed you will fail, because what he just did is actually something that went through to OpenAI. But if you tried to use an blocked model, this will not work through. If you discover, for example, that there's something wrong with GPT-5, not that I know anything, you will be able to block this on an organizational level by using these things from a central place. So this is kind of the way we look at it. If you have an application that connects to this, you will be able to block it. So this will kind of connect and allow you governance and usage control. And here you can see Bill's request.
Yeah, there you go. And you can actually see here, right? This is the request that came in. And there we go. So let's talk about the next kind of model, because I want to make sure that we have enough time. And that model, of course, is package. Package is the open source models. As you can see here, this is our discovery page. We also let you know which ones are available and say which ones are not.
What's and this really is coming from the catalog. This is indexed of the entire kind of Hugging Face catalog. These are the 2 million kind of models you can explore.
Exactly. And by the way, you can also go up here and do searches at any time. Like in this case, this is for local models, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the idea with this is that, yeah, you can go in and look at any of these anytime. We also, by the way, we include when you do search, first of all, we tell you who has access to it currently. On this side here, we actually will tell you some basic information behind it. If you look here, it says not malicious. If you click into the security aspect behind it, this one is partially blocked. It's due to a licensing issue. But this is actually a way for you to get information about any model that you want in our catalog. We also include a basic model card that we have here. We're going to be actually making some changes to make it better. In this case, we can only have the latest version. In the next iteration, we will have the ability to choose more than one version as this. But the cool part is that, once again, you can allow this model into specific, if you want to add it to a project. In this case, I might want to go ahead and add this into, say, my research team. I'm going to hit allow. Now, if I want to utilize this, what's awesome is I can go click on here. If I want to use this model, I can use a standard transformer. But in other models, what I want to show is that when we go to discovery and say I have a model, say like this one, like a Quinn model, which I actually have, I'm utilizing for an example I'm going to show you next. If I click on here, I can, instead of going ahead and having to say pull this model, write some code to deploy it and host it somewhere so I can use it. What if I want to host this and use this as a model that I might use like the external API model? And what I can do is that now that I have this one, I can hit deploy. I'm going to go ahead and select an instance type, GPU or CPU based. I'm just going to go ahead and select this one here. It's a pretty hefty one. We charge in this case based on machine learning credits. There's a whole explanation behind that where I'm not going to go into. I can either have it as a fixed replica right now, where we'll be bringing auto scaling. And then if I want to deploy this, I just hit deploy. And what this is going to go do is spin up some architecture. Once this is done deploying, I'll be able to go ahead and say use model. I'll be able to go ahead and use any sort of standard transformers. I'm actually going to show you an example of this. I actually download the model in the example I'm going to show you. But you also get all the information like I showed you before, which is usage. How is it being used? You can see the runtime logs. This will take a few minutes. We're not going to watch it because it's like watching paint dry, and we only have a few minutes left. So I want to make sure we cover it. But this is a way for you to go ahead and secure those models. Now remember, all that information and all this information here is actually also being scanned by our X-ray continuously behind the scenes. What's cool is that when it's deploying this model, one of the nice features of it is if we go into artifacts, you can see under my research team here, what I have, this is actually what we're going to be doing is actually we are going to be going ahead and actually saving the actual, in this case, the model itself in a repository. So we're actually going ahead and caching it and storing it before we deploy it. So you also have a localized copy. This allows you to have that base copy. We also, when you're doing this sort of development, you could download the model, write your own code, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. And that's when we depend on the repositories that we have, right? So under remote repository, when it comes to machine learning, if I go in here, you can see that we have Hugging Face. By the way, we also have NVIDIA NIMS. We are actually the preferred partner with NVIDIA in terms of development if you are using NGC to build your stuff. That's for remote. So if you're familiar with the remote repositories, that gives you the ability to cache those models, keep a base model version. So if you have 1,000 data scientists, we only store that model once inside of Artifactory, and that means that only one request has to go out. If it's 100 megs or a terabyte, whatever. And that means that 99 other data scientists will be able to use the same one out of the system. We have local repositories too. We have a machine learning repository, which we're going to discuss in a minute. And we also have a Hugging Face. You can actually version Hugging Face models. And the best part is that because it uses our components, that also means you save on storage costs. Like I have a lot of models here. I only have 236 gigabytes of physically stored binaries, but I went to its full size, putting back all those duplicates for all those versions of models I've created, it'd be 4.42 terabytes. That's pretty substantial. But also, it leverages our metadata layer on top, which allows you to go ahead and actually use the metadata layer on top for querying and building more effective pipelines. Now, let's go back to the last model. Now, the last model is your custom models. Now, there's a couple ways to do this. So first of all, you would create a machine learning repository. There's a whole explanation on that. If you want to upload a model, we actually have an upload model guide right here, where we actually give you a quick start, where we say here, create a model, go ahead and do your quick start guide. You create a model inside of our entity, either using here, we'll create it using the UI. You can also do it via the CLI commands right here. We actually give you a template to get started, and in this case, how you can deploy it. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's go look at a practical purpose for right now. Right now, if I go in here and I hit custom, I have a series of models. But where did I get these models from? So let's go ahead and let's switch back to my IDE for a minute. Okay, let's go here. Now, instead I'm going to go switch from my repo, my directory. I'm going to show you lab 2. Let's go in there. And that actually happens to be, I'm going to shut that down for a minute, is just a notebook. All right. And now in this case, just so you're aware that if you look in here, I hid the actual, let's go in, I'll show this afterwards. Anyway, I'm proxying all my Python dependencies through Artifactory and making sure they're secure. In this case, I'm actually downloading and storing in Artifactory first of all, my model. So I'm actually proxying through a remote repository. I actually have it configured already. All that information is available in the set me up. It's very easy. I'm also grabbing a data set to train this. On top of that, some data preparation, blah, 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 all the stuff you would normally do inside of a model. But the big thing is, what do you do with it when you're done, when you need to store it somewhere? And that's where this comes in. So with a machine learning repository, what's nice is that you can use our Frog ML SDK. We actually can grab the model that you just defined above inside of your notebook. We can grab things like the tokenizer. This is the repository artifact where I'm going to store it. Here's the model name. Here's the version. Yes, you actually can use your own version schema. You can also go ahead and just use the default one, which should be day and date and time. We're going to grab all the parameters. We're going to grab the code. We're going to grab the dependencies, the metrics, the predict file, everything I want to know about that. And to actually go ahead and actually upload this into what we're doing, all I need to do is actually just click on here. Right, it's going to run it right now. It's going to go ahead and package this up. Oh, I need to go up and I actually ran the model. I'm just saving some time. And that model, I'll show you itself. It's going to go ahead. I notice we're running out of time, which is terrible. And we're going to go back to the UI. Let me go back. Sorry, there we go. I'm going to show you, first of all, that inside of Artifactory, I've actually gone ahead and stored the models. Here it is here, DevOps helper _01. 0.28 is my last version. You can see here is the code. And by the way, I can just download this code, the zip file. This is all the code that was there. So you can see that right here. I can even, if I wanted to, look at the version of the model itself. I can also show you the dependencies behind that model. I can show you inside how it was configured, everything from the vocab up to how the token mapping works and down to configuration. Every model has a machine learning bill of materials. Yes, for regulatory purposes, it's right here. What was used, how it was configured, all that information generated for you for legal purposes and ease. Also, too, you can search for any model because we actually store all the information about your testing right here as properties. So properties are queryable and actionable. Everything from the data set to evaluation, the eval loss, anything that you need. And when you go to AI Catalog under models, here it is. So we've actually recognized this as a model. Now what it's done is it's created a base model framework. And actually this is assigned to a project like we showed before. But one of the other features is I can use the command line tool and actually go ahead, and I'll show you one that actually worked, because that's actually what I'm building right now, is that every single one of these actually has a model. So if you look here, this is a build where we actually go ahead, we validate, we test the model. Here's the code that we uploaded as part of the model. Every one of these models is actually scanned. Right now, we are scanning open source models. We actually have custom model scanning coming imminently soon. That will allow you to actually even do deeper dives into custom models that you're building. And you have the ability to deploy these models, which I'm going to show you in a sec. So if we go back in, you can see I have various versions of these models here. I can actually even, like Artifactory, I can actually even compare two models like a diff to see if anything's changed between them at the parameter level, valuation, SDK, code, and whatnot. The other side of this too is that I can see when I've deployed a model. And what that means is that when I have a deployed model, I can just go here and say deploy. I could choose CPU or GPU-based infrastructure to host the model itself. I can replace the current production model. I can shadow it, which means I can do canary testing if I wanted, using the same data as the production model to see if it's any better. I can do advanced traffic splitting to say how I want the data set so that I can go ahead and evaluate these models itself, which is great. I can show you the history of how these models have been deployed. We also have a math analytics behind it, so I can go ahead and say, give me all this data that I've had in, say, whatever period of time. I can export this data so I can even use it as testing data if I wanted to do evaluation and training data as part of this. And we also will tell you which variant it might be using. You have monitoring for things like drift if you want, so you can do that. We tell you how is the information being distributed from the data into the feature store. Now, this one happens to be actually a prompt, so that's just one thing there. You have the ability to run automations, which are great. So you can either build and deploy or run batch metal executions. You can create versions. I don't think I have any versions in this one, but you can create versions for experiment tracking. And the big thing is at the front of this is that when you're evaluating and have this running live, you can, number one, test the model right here if you wanted to. And we give you also examples in Python and Java and Go to test this model or run or execute it. And if you look here, you can see that I'm actually running this in a variant. So this means I can go ahead and see if things are operationally different between my two models and make my decision based on data and characteristic information and metrics in one location. Anything you want to add, Guy? Because we only have a few minutes left.
If you could just go back to the registry section and the AI Catalog. I just want to remind you, everybody, that this whole thing or topic called AI governance, it's very broad and sometimes it's very scary. And there's a lot of ways to look at it. And the way we look at it is first from the DevOps perspective, which means I want to control what my users are doing first. So by that, we mean which models they're using, how are they using it, who's using it, and who can do new things. And again, just remember that we have three types of models. We have these custom models, the ones that you can version as Bill showed, you can deploy this, you can compare, you can train these models. We have the open source models, the packages models from Hugging Face. These are actual files, and they're being saved in Artifactory via the remote Hugging Face repos. That's our kind of proxy there. And we also have these external models, the OpenAI models, and we all give you the control in one place. So you can search, discover, and connect to your applications. Because in all models, you have very simple code snippets that are standard, whether it's the OpenAI SDK, whether it's anything else, that your developers, data scientists, product managers can go in the system, see what's available. And if you remember, Bill showed you that there's the waiver request. They will be able to request new models via the system. And also, if they're using blocked models, you will be able to see this. If something was blocked, if someone tries to use a not allowed model, you will see this in the audit logs. And our goal really is to create a product that's going to be the single place where you can control everything, whether it's what's being used, how it's being used, and who's using it. And of course, it's going to be ongoing evolution since we are in AI, and AI is itself an ongoing evolution.
And one of the other cool things is, by the way, guys, is just so you know that when you are using everything that Guy just said, when we talked about curation, what's great is that anytime when you go and do this, it actually will create allow lists, right, for these actual repos. And if you block, it'll create a block list. And what's cool is for your security teams, they can go in at any time and actually view the contents of this too. And they can go into even labels where we've actually labeled allowed models here too. And if you click in, your teams can quickly view what models are currently being allowed in there, what versions. In this case, it says all versions right now, but it could be specific ones. And then I might as well just show, Guy, that we might as well just go here for a minute, just quickly, before we end, to say our next session will include something that we are going to be announcing tomorrow, right? I guess tomorrow is the day. And that is this. And what this is shadow AI detection. Guy, do you want to elaborate for a second, or should we just leave it the way it is and come back? And
no, I just want to really quickly say one of the issues in governance in AI is not just seeing what users are using, but figuring out what are the files that we have in the system, which models are hiding. Remember, AI has been used for the past 2 or 3 years in your organization. You have 1 million artifacts, you have 10,000 artifacts. Maybe you have hidden Hugging Face models there. Maybe you have OpenAI calls in some artifacts that you're not aware of. So we're going to be providing scans of the entire system. We're going to be providing a way to manage and see everything that's been found, and also, of course, connected to the AI catalog by saying, hey, we've detected Quen, it's allowed in some project, not in others. Do I want to use it or not? Hey, I've detected in some Docker image a hidden malicious model, exactly like we do with packages, but we're extending that to AI. So you can really know what's in the system, not just the new things, but also the kind of the old stuff or everything that's out there.
Well, excellent. We're going to talk about that in our next session. I think our next masterclass, which I'm not sure when that's going to be, probably next month, hopefully. That's the plan, I think. And I think that'll be one of the discussion points we have there. On behalf of myself and Guy and the JFrog family, I wanted to say thank you. And everybody be safe, be wonderful, be well, happy and safe development for all.
Thank you.
Cheers.